Imagine waking up in the middle of the night and seeing, through the window, a thin, eyeless figure standing on your porch, watching you. What would you do if you knew it wasn't alone? This happened in November of last year. I had booked a cabin on the outskirts of a small town in Colorado. It wasn't a big deal, just a 3-day getaway to disconnect from work. The cabin was isolated, surrounded by forests, and about 10 kilometers from the main road. There were no nearby neighbors, and the idea of spending a few days in complete tranquility seemed perfect to me. I arrived at sunset. The air was cold, and the ground creaked under my boots as I walked toward the door. The cabin was small but cozy, with dark wooden furniture and a fireplace that promised warm nights. I left my suitcase in the bedroom and lit the fireplace. While organizing my things, I noticed that the back door wasn't locked. I locked it without thinking much about it, and spent the rest of the night reading and drinking a glass of wine. Just as I was about to fall asleep, I heard a noise outside, as if something large was moving among the trees. I peeked through the window, but all I saw was darkness and the still silhouette of the pines. I told myself it was just an animal and went to bed. That night, I slept restlessly. I woke up several times with the feeling that something was off. One of those times, I could swear I heard the creaking of wood on the porch. I stayed in bed, completely still, with my heart pounding in my ears. The next morning, when I stepped outside for some air, I noticed something strange. In the snow, right in front of the door, there were footprints. They weren't mine. They belonged to someone barefoot. They led to the trees and disappeared into the shadows of the forest. My skin bristled. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe someone was wandering around the area, although in the middle of winter and without shoes, that seemed unlikely. I spent the day trying to get the idea out of my head, exploring the surroundings and enjoying the solitude. But as the sunlight faded, the feeling of unease settled in my chest again. I decided to go to bed early. It was almost 3 in the morning when I abruptly woke up. A sound. Someone was trying to open the back door. I jumped out of bed, holding my breath. I heard the sound of wood creaking under weight. Someone was on the porch. I slowly approached the window, trying not to make a noise. When I lifted the curtains slightly, a shiver ran down my spine. There it was, standing in front of the door, a thin, naked figure with pale skin and long, tangled hair. It had its back turned, head tilted as if listening to something inside the cabin. My heart hammered against my chest. I didn't know what to do. Then, the figure slowly turned, and I realized it was looking at me. It had no eyes, just 2 empty sockets on an expressionless face. I stumbled away from the window, searching for my phone. My hands trembled as I tried to dial the emergency number. But before I could do it, the back door swung open with a chilling creak. I felt a rush of icy air invade the cabin. I ran toward the front door, but when I opened it, I found something even worse. Right in front of me, just a few steps away, stood dozens of identical figures to the one on the porch, all standing still, staring at me, with their vacant faces. The entire forest was filled with them. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. The last thing I remember was a collective murmur, an indecipherable whisper that seemed to come from the air itself. Then darkness. I woke up at dawn, alone in the cabin. The back door was closed. There were no footprints in the snow. No trace remained of what I had seen that night. But I know it wasn't a dream. I know they were there, and that they let me go for some reason I will never understand. I never went back to that cabin. I never will. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe my mind played tricks on me. But every time I close my eyes, I see those figures in the snow, motionless, waiting. And even though I left that cabin behind, sometimes I feel like something followed me back, something that still watches me in the dark.